The distress signal appeared as a thin scar across the holographic display, pale blue against the dark well of space. It pulsed 3 times, paused, then dragged itself into one long, fading note before dissolving into static. Old. Primitive. Human. Commander Elias Ward stood with his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the waveform. The galactic Concorde chamber around him curved like the inside of a shell, tiers of delegates floating on gravity disks, their forms glittering, scaled, or shrouded in atmosphere fields. Thousands of years of civilization, all watching one fragile pattern of light. That encoding, murmured a Telari archivist, its voice filtered through water-thin membranes, predates modern hyperspace syntax. Ward didn't turn. It's a colonial emergency format, he said evenly. Used during Earth's first expansion. Retired 7 centuries ago. A ripple of discomfort moved through the chamber. High Executor Threxel drifted forward, his elongated frame casting a sharp shadow across the central dais. Metallic filaments along his skull flared faintly. Commander Ward, he said, voice cold and amplified, human history is extensive. That does not make this signal relevant. Ward finally faced him. It makes it specific. The display shifted, projecting the signal's origin, a dead system labeled KX-19, far beyond established trade lanes. No habitable worlds. No registered traffic. Nothing worth saving. The Concorde has monitored this anomaly for 6 standard months, Threxel continued. Spectral decay suggests residual noise from a long-extinct outpost. Probability of survivors, negligible. Then why hasn't it stopped? Ward asked. Silence stretched. A Virexian analyst broke it, mandibles clicking. Commander, even automated beacons degrade. Power sources fail. This persistence implies maintenance, or interference. Or desperation, Ward said quietly. Threxel's eyes narrowed. Speculation. Ward inclined his head. A human one. The chamber lights dimmed as Threxel raised a limb, signaling conclusion. The Concorde will not authorize an expedition. The sector is unstable. Dispatching fleets risks provoking unknown forces. We will not escalate over ghosts. Ward held his gaze. Permission to investigate with a single task group. Denied before the words finished echoing. Humanity's curiosity, Threxel said, has a documented tendency to ignite disasters. Ward smiled, thin and polite. So does ignoring warnings. The High Executor turned away. This council is adjourned. Gravity shifted. Delegates dispersed, already losing interest. To them, it was settled. Another relic, another footnote in a galaxy full of ruins. Ward remained until the chamber was empty. On the transit deck outside, Lieutenant Marachin matched his stride, visor tucked under her arm. They never planned to help, she said. No, Ward replied. They planned to forget. And us? Ward stopped. The viewport before them opened onto the Concorde Nexus, a lattice of light and motion orbiting a blue giant star. Countless ships slid along prescribed vectors, obedient, predictable. We don't forget our own, he said. Back aboard the UES Silent Meridian, the bridge lights were low, the crew waiting. Ward took the command seat without ceremony. Status, he said. Fleet elements assembled, Chen reported. 3 cruisers, 1 carrier. Transponders active. Ward considered that for half a second. Deactivate transponders once we clear Nexus range. Chen's eyebrows lifted. Sir? No announcements, he said. No escorts. We go dark. The comms officer hesitated. That violates Concorde navigation law. Ward leaned forward, voice calm. So does abandoning a distress call. No one argued. As the fleet slipped into hyperspace, the signal grew stronger, its rhythm steady, stubborn. On Ward's private display, decrypted fragments scrolled, partial data packets, corrupted logs, a single repeating identifier. Outpost Echo 7. Status, compromised. Chen studied the readout. Echo 7 was decommissioned before my great-grandparents were born. Which means whatever's powering that beacon isn't standard, Ward said. And whatever answered it last time, she asked. Ward's expression hardened. Didn't survive to report. Hours into transit, a junior sensor tech spoke up, voice tight. Sir, we're detecting residual scans in the corridor ahead. Not Concord. Not human. Ward stood. Type? Unknown. Pattern suggests passive observation. Like something watching traffic, not engaging. Chen swallowed. A trap? Ward shook his head slowly. No. A filter. The silent meridian shuddered as hyperspace peeled away. Stars snapped into focus, cold and wrong. KX-19 lay before them, a graveyard. One planet cracked open like a broken shell. Another reduced to a ring of ash. The system's star burned dim, leached thin. And there, drifting between debris, was a small human structure, scarred and dark. The distress signal pulsed again, weaker now, as if aware it had been heard. The bridge was silent. Chen whispered, Sir, they were right. No one could have lived through this. Ward watched the ruined outpost rotate slowly, its hull etched with marks that didn't match weapons known to any database. Maybe, he said. But someone lived long enough to ask for help. He straightened, voice steady, carrying across the bridge. Open a channel. Begin recovery protocols. The signal pulsed once more. And far beyond the edge of sensors, something shifted, as if noticing that humanity had arrived at last. The boarding team crossed the gap in silence, mad boots biting into the scorched hull of Outpost Echo 7. Up close, the station looked less abandoned and more wounded. Entire sections were folded inward, metal twisted as if pressed by invisible hands rather than explosives. No scorch patterns. No debris clouds. Just compression. Commander Ward stepped through the breach first. Inside, emergency lights flickered weakly, their rhythm out of sync, as if time itself had lost discipline here. The air was thin but breathable. Gravity fluctuated in shallow waves, enough to unsettle balance without triggering alarms. Power source is still active, Chen said quietly, scanning the corridor. Low output, but stable. Ward frowned. That shouldn't be possible. They passed sealed doors bent inward, bulkheads warped into smooth curves. Something had pushed through without cutting, tearing, or burning. It had arrived, and the station had simply failed to resist. A data terminal blinked at the end of the corridor. Ward brushed dust from the screen and keyed manual access. The interface lagged, then complied. Log entries scrolled past, dates stretching back centuries, then accelerating, tighter together, frantic. Day 1, unidentified contact. No propulsion signature. No energy spike. It was there. Day 12, we cannot track it. Sensors lie. Space bends around its movement. Chen swallowed. Sir, this reads like panic. Ward kept scrolling. Day 29, we fired first. We missed. We always miss. Day 41, it is not attacking us. It is collecting. The final entry ended mid-sentence. A sharp tone cut through the stillness. Movement, the point officer hissed. Internal. Weapons came up. From the shadows ahead, a figure emerged, slow, unsteady, human. Armor fused to flesh. One arm gone. The visor cracked, revealing a bloodshot eye that widened when it saw them. Don't shoot, the survivor croaked. You're late, but you came. Chen rushed forward, catching him before he collapsed. Med bay now. Ward knelt beside the man. Name? Sergeant Jonah Cade, he said between ragged breaths. Echo 7 security. You've been alone a long time, Ward said. Cade laughed weakly. Alone's generous. Back aboard the silent Meridian, Cade lay surrounded by monitors, his vitals fragile but holding. Ward stood at the foot of the bed as the survivor spoke. It wasn't a fleet, Cade said. Not at first. One shape. No mass readings. No heat. Just absence. Chen asked, a cloaked vessel? Cade shook his head. No hull. No engine. It moved by deciding to be somewhere else. Ward exchanged a glance with her. And the others? More came, Cade whispered. Not ships. Instruments. They peeled planets like skin. Drained stars until fusion stuttered. You sent the distress signal, Ward said. Cade's eye fixed on him. We sent hundreds. Only one format got through the noise. Ward nodded. You chose well. The lights dimmed as the ship's sensors chimed, a low, urgent note. Sir, the tactical officer called out, multiple contacts entering the system. The display filled with shapes that refused to resolve. Not dots. Not silhouettes. Distortions, like heat haze cut into the stars themselves. Chen stared. How many? The officer hesitated. I can't count them. Ward straightened. Status? They're not accelerating, the officer said. They're just appearing closer. Cade laughed again, a dry rasp. Told you. They don't travel. Ward turned to Chen. Initiate phase black. Her fingers paused over the console. Sir, Concord law. Doesn't apply, Ward finished. Not here. The ship shuddered as hidden systems woke. Bulkheads slid open, revealing chambers that had never appeared on civilian schematics. Energy readings spiked, then stabilized at levels the Concord would have labeled impossible. Cade's remaining eye widened. You brought that? Ward met his gaze. We built it because of you. Outside, the distortions advanced. Target lock impossible, Tactical reported. Weapons can't find edges. Ward nodded. They don't have edges. Adjust firing solution. Predict intent, not location. The first shot wasn't light or sound. Space simply ceased where it passed, a clean absence carving through the haze. One distortion vanished, not exploded, not scattered. Gone. For half a second, the others froze. Then they reacted. Gravity surged. Alarms screamed. The silent meridian groaned as spacetime flexed around it, whole plating screaming under forces no inertia dampener was meant to handle. Hold, Ward ordered calmly. They're testing us. Chen stared at the tactical feed. Sir, they're learning. So are we, Ward replied. Another volley fired. Two more distortions collapsed. The remaining shapes shifted formation, spreading, adapting. Cade whispered, that's how it always went. Every trick cost lives. Ward's voice softened. Not this time. He tapped the comm panel. Signal Earth. Priority black. A pause. Then, channel open. Ward spoke clearly. This is Commander Ward. Phase black confirmed. Harvest entities active. Engagement ongoing. A beat of silence. Then Earth answered. Authorization granted, came the reply. You know what to do. Ward closed the channel and faced the storm outside. Bring the galaxy's attention online, he said. They need to see this. As the weapons fired again, bending reality into shapes no treaty had language for, the predators pressed closer, no longer curious. No longer patient. For the first time in centuries, humanity was no longer running drills. They were fighting for real. The harvest entities adapted quickly, but not quickly enough. Space twisted as they advanced, reality folding in slow, predatory motions, pressure building against the silent meridian's hull. Consoles flickered. Gravity fluctuated, trying to tear crew and structure apart in the same breath. Structural stress rising, Chen reported, voice tight but controlled. They're attempting to compress us. Ward didn't raise his voice. They won't succeed. Another distortion surged forward, intent sharpening, space thinning like stretched glass. The enemy didn't rush. It decided the ship no longer belonged where it was. Ward lifted one finger. Deploy anchor. The ship answered with a sound that wasn't sound, an internal vibration that made teeth ache. The compression stopped. Not resisted. Denied. Outside, space-time snapped back into alignment. One of the entities faltered, its shape shuddering as if confused by refusal. "What did we just do?" a junior officer whispered. Ward didn't look away from the display. "We reminded the universe where this ship ends." Weapons fired again. This time, the effect was different. Space didn't vanish, it inverted. The distortion folded inward, collapsing through itself, its presence unraveling into nothing that sensors could recognize. Chen exhaled sharply. Confirmed kill. The remaining entities reacted instantly, spreading wider, slipping toward the system's outer gravity wells, trying to flank through physics itself. "They're avoiding direct engagement," Tactical said. "Attempting to bypass us." Ward nodded. "They've learned we're dangerous." "Then why not retreat?" Chen asked. Ward's eyes hardened. "Because they've learned something else too." The answer came seconds later. A pulse rolled through the system, low, deep, resonant. The star dimmed further, its light siphoned away in measured gulps. "They're feeding," Chen said. "On the star." Ward's jaw tightened. "If they finish, this system dies." "And them?" "They multiply." Ward turned. "Initiate phase black, final measure." A silence fell across the bridge. Chen met his eyes. "Once we do this, there's no concealing it. Concord sensors will pick it up everywhere." "Yes," Ward said. "That's the point. Phase black final is forbidden," Tactical added. "By every treaty ever written." Ward's expression didn't change. Those treaties assumed survival. He keyed the command himself. Deep within the ship, systems older than any current crew came fully online. The carrier behind them unfolded, hull panels peeling back to reveal structures that bent light and shadow alike. Energy rose, not explosively, but inevitably, like a tide that could not be argued with. "Target solution?" Chen asked. Ward didn't hesitate. "The star." Her head snapped toward him. "Sir?" "They're anchored to it," Ward said. "We remove the anchor. That will destabilize the system." "Yes." "And the Concord?" "Already chose this outcome," Ward said calmly. "We're just making it end quickly." As the weapon charged, space screamed. The entities surged forward, sensing the shift, attempting to interrupt. Reality rippled as they struck the invisible boundary around the fleet, hammering with force that would have shredded any known warship. The boundary held. "Fire," Ward said. The star didn't explode. It stopped. Fusion halted mid-process, light freezing in place as if time had briefly lost interest. Then the stored energy was released, not outward, but inward, collapsing through an engineered singularity that formed and vanished in the same instant. The entities had nowhere to feed. Their shapes spasmed, coherence failing. One by one, they unraveled, not destroyed by force, but by starvation, their presence thinning until even absence could no longer cling to them. The system went dark. Silence followed, heavy, absolute. "Contact's gone," Tactical said softly. "All of them." Chen stared at the empty display. "We ended them." Ward closed his eyes for half a second. Then alarms flared again. Multiple warp signatures, sensors called out. Concord fleet emerging. The Nexus response armada poured into the dead system, vessels gleaming, weapons primed, confusion rippling through formation as they took in the darkness where a star should have been. A channel opened without request. High Executor Threxel's image filled the main display, rigid with controlled outrage. "Commander Ward," he said. "You have committed an irreversible act." Ward met his gaze evenly. "So did you." 6 months ago. Threxel gestured toward the void. You annihilated a star. Ward shook his head once. No. We closed a feeding ground. Those entities were contained, Threxel snapped. They were monitored. They were harvesting, Ward replied. You called it observation because the alternative required responsibility. The Concorde ships adjusted formation, weapons tracking but not firing. Fear had crept into their movements. Threxel's voice lowered. Humanity has violated every boundary. Ward leaned forward slightly. Humanity answered a distress call. He gestured, and the feed shifted. Logs from Echo 7 streamed across Concorde channels. Visuals of stripped planets. Starvation diagrams. Survivor testimony. Cade's voice echoed, hoarse but clear, they don't negotiate. They consume. Threxel said nothing. Ward continued, voice steady, carrying to every listening system. You classified the signal because you hoped the problem would finish itself. It didn't. It waited. He straightened. We will hunt them wherever they exist. Not to conquer. Not to rule. To end them. Threxel finally spoke, quieter now. And if the Concorde objects? Ward's answer was simple. Then you should hope we never receive another signal. He closed the channel. Across the galaxy, sensors recorded the impossible, physics bent, a star erased, predators gone. Fear spread faster than data. On the silent meridian, the crew sat in stunned silence. Chin broke it gently. Sir, what now? Ward looked out at the empty system, where light would never return. Now, he said, they remember why humans listen. Far away, in systems that had ignored whispers and dismissed warnings, ancient forces stirred uneasily. Because the galaxy had just learned the truth. When humanity answers, it does not arrive to ask questions. It arrives to make sure there will be no more screams. The galaxy did not sleep after KX-19. It listened. Across trade lanes and quiet systems, sensors replayed the same impossible data loop, stars dimming into nothing, spatial constants bending, predators erased without debris or echo. No explosion. No battlefield glory. Just absence, precise and final. On the silent meridian, Commander Ward stood alone in the observation gallery. Beyond the reinforced glass lay a starless void where KX-19 had been. Navigation beacons marked the system as restricted, the designation newly invented because no older category fit. Footsteps approached softly. Chin stopped beside him, arms folded. The Concorde has issued a formal censure. And an apology. Ward didn't turn. In that order? Yes. He nodded once. That tracks. They've also requested joint oversight of future operations. Ward allowed himself a thin smile. They want proximity to power. And distance from blame. Exactly. A soft chime announced an incoming priority channel. Ward gestured for it to open. Earth's emblem appeared, simple, unadorned. Admiral Reyes filled the screen, her expression grave but steady. You did what was required, she said. The galaxy saw. They saw the ending, Ward replied. Not the cost. Reyes inclined her head. The cost is ours to carry. Chin shifted. Ma'am, what happens now? Reyes exhaled slowly. Now we stop pretending this was isolated. Our deep arrays are lighting up. Similar distortions. Dormant. Watching. Ward's gaze sharpened. Coordinates? Too many, Reyes said. And too spread out. This wasn't a single species. It was a process. Ward closed his eyes briefly. A harvest cycle. Yes. Silence followed, heavy but resolved. Reyes continued, the Concorde has agreed to share everything they've hidden. Archives, suppressed encounters, dead-end research. They're afraid. Ward opened his eyes. They should be. The channel closed. Hours later, the Concorde convened again, this time with no pretense of control. The chamber was fuller, darker, gravity fields tighter, as if the delegates themselves feared drifting too far from solid ground. High Executor Threxel appeared older. Smaller. "You have altered the balance," he said, voice stripped of ceremony. Ward stood at the center dais, hands clasped, posture relaxed. "The balance was already broken. You just didn't want to acknowledge it." Threxel's eyes flickered. "The Concorde exists to prevent extinction-level escalation." Ward met his gaze. "Then you failed." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Threxel raised a limb, silencing it. "Humanity now proposes to lead a containment initiative." "No," Ward corrected. "We propose to end the cycle." "That authority has never been granted," Threxel said. Ward's reply was quiet. "Authority isn't requested when survival is on the table." Threxel studied him for a long moment. "And if your methods destabilize the galaxy?" Ward didn't hesitate. "Then the galaxy survives destabilized." The chamber fell silent. Finally, Threxel bowed, barely, but unmistakably. "The Concorde will not interfere." Ward inclined his head in return. "Wise." Back aboard the Silent Meridian, preparations began immediately. New task forces assembled. Old human war doctrines, sealed for centuries, were reactivated. Not conquest plans. Containment maps. Chin reviewed a tactical projection, eyes narrowing. "These regions, they're everywhere." "Yes," Ward said. "Which means they expected resistance to fail." "And now?" "And now," Ward replied, "they know it won't." A junior officer approached hesitantly. "Sir, there's something you should hear." He cued an audio fragment recovered from Echo 7's final buffer, a faint, distorted whisper layered beneath the distress signal. It hadn't been a call for help. It had been a warning. Cade's voice, weak but resolute, "If you hear this, don't hesitate. They don't stop. Neither should you." Chin swallowed. He knew no one was coming. Ward nodded. He still sent it. The ship slipped into motion, hyperspace folding open like a curtain. As they departed, automated beacons marked KX-19's remains with a new designation. Resolve threat. In distant systems, ancient observers took note. Patterns were changing. Prey had teeth. On a world far beyond Concorde space, something vast shifted within a lattice of dark matter and folded dimensions. It felt the absence where a feeder node had been. And for the first time in its existence, it felt uncertainty. Because the species that answered distress calls did not negotiate cycles. It ended them. Back on the bridge, Chin looked at Ward. "Do you think they'll try to communicate?" Ward considered the question. "No," he said. "They'll try to adapt." "And us?" Ward's eyes reflected the starless jump corridor ahead. "We already did." The Silent Meridian vanished into the dark, not as a symbol of war, but as a promise, unspoken, relentless. Somewhere, another signal was already forming. And this time, the galaxy would not pretend it didn't hear it.